Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Golf Business Live with Michael Williams. I am your host, the aforementioned Michael Williams, and I am so pleased again to be bringing you all the information, all the topics, all the subject matter that you care about as a golf course owner and operator. In our first segment this week, it'll be really a look forward and a look back. You know, we look at the 2022 year. Again, it had a lot of blessings for golf course owners and operators with the number of new golfers that came in during the pandemic period, still gracing the golf courses. We love to see those numbers, and we love to try to retain them. On the other hand, we look at 2023 and we see a very challenging economy, one of the most challenging economies for a generation coming up next year. So again, we have a lot of successes and a lot of challenges. And joining us today to talk about these and other issues are two of my very favorite people in the golf business. First, we have Cathy Harbin. She is the current vice president and the next president of the National Golf Course Owners Association. In addition, she's an at-large board director of the PGA of America. And of course, she is the owner of Pine Ridge Golf Course in Paris, Texas. Also joining is Whitey O'Malley, also a member of the NGCOA board and a 24-year veteran owner of Saddleback Golf Club in Firestone, Colorado. Cathy, Whitey, welcome to Golf Business Live. So good to have you with us today.
I'm good. How about you, Kath?
Yeah, doing great. Thank you.
Outstanding. And are you guys getting a chance to play golf? I just want to say, I've always had the experience that when you own a golf course, you have to really make time to play golf. When's the last time, Whitey, you played a round of golf? When's the last time you played?
Oh, right up the road last week.
Outstanding. So, I'm glad to hear it.
New TPC course, and it was really nice. So I try to get out once a week, at least with the men's club.
See, you're a role model for us all. Cathy, when was the last time you got out and hit a ball around?
Well, I've had a pretty good year of playing this year, but I actually just played last Thursday, christened the new PGA Frisco golf course, and had a chance to get out there with one of my committees and play. So it was nice.
Outstanding. That's someplace I'd look forward to seeing at some point. The new center. I hear very good things about the place.
It's pretty spectacular. Yes.
Outstanding. Well, let's book that, okay?
Because yes, definitely.
Yes, you can show me the way around the course. So as I was saying in the open, 2022, really an interesting year for us all. Again, when we talk about the challenges of the pandemic, we also had this influx of new golfers that all the measurements tell us were there. I'm going to start with you, Cathy. With those new golfers, we see the numbers, but on a practical sense, are you seeing those new numbers at your golf course? Did you experience an actual increase in rounds, an increase in your revenues in different profit centers across the board that are related to an influx of new players?
Well, I think we definitely saw it, and it's easy for us to kind of get a little bit of an analysis about it, because when we were the only game in town, when you couldn't go to a movie and you couldn't go to a bowling alley and you really couldn't even go out to eat, we were very busy. We were the place everyone was going to get outside to spend time with your family. And as those businesses started to open, it wasn't like it's mass movement back into those, but we could see gradually people going back to other activities as they were opening up. And so we kind of plateaued. We reached a peak, and we've gone now. I feel like we're at a stabilization point with it now, here being October of 22, where this is kind of our customer. But I think the one thing we spoke about, all of us, while we had this influx of new people, is how do we keep them? What do we do that keeps them engaged? And at the time, even I got asked the question a lot. My number was, if we could keep 30% of them playing the game after all the dust settles, we should probably call that a success. And I do think we've been able to do that. And some of the ways we've been able to do that is to meet them where they are, which is shorter rounds, top tracer, which I have here, and just offering a variety of golf programs that match their life instead of having to try to make their life match golf.
Outstanding. Interesting that you've seen those numbers, and I like that you have sort of a definite measurable that you attach to it, that 30%. I think it's good to have something to shoot for that you can measure against. Whitey, I'm going to ask you the same question. I guess, and with an addition, are you seeing those new golfers, and do you see any difference in what products and services those new golfers are asking for as opposed to your previous customer base?
I don't see a new product. I think they're looking for just the basics to be done right, which is sometimes not always the easiest peg to hit. As silly as it sounds, clean bathrooms, a golf course that's moving 4.5 hours, range balls that are clean, carts that are clean. It sounds like a small undertaking, but holy smokes, every day it's like a challenge to make sure all those numbers are hit. We're looking back at it, and Cathy, your number is exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking 20% above 2019 numbers. If we ever went back to that, that'd be considered a win. But right now, we are at about 80% above what 2019 numbers are. I would have thought we would have been 20 to 30% higher than 2019 numbers.
Yeah, and Cathy, I want to go back to you with the next question. The number of golfers increased, but we all know about the challenges in keeping employees and keeping staff and labor and that sort of thing. There's sort of been an outflow of people in the workforce. How have you managed to navigate that over the course of 2022, and how will you continue that into 2023?
Well, yeah, I'll knock on wood with that one because we've been pretty lucky with staff. I still think in our little town of Paris, Texas, we're probably one of the cooler, more fun places to work, and we've kept that environment going. So we've been pretty lucky with staff. Our core staff has stayed, and frankly, they could have made more money at McDonald's the last couple of years on their hourly wage, but they've stayed. We try to continue to create a fun environment, try to create a place. Our mission is to make sure everyone, including our team members, feels valued and appreciated. And so I feel like staying the line with treating our team member the same way we treat our customers has enabled us to keep staff pretty readily.
Whitey, same thing for you. How's your staffing and labor gone? Have you had challenges? Hold steady? Maybe even just gotten better?
Yeah, no. Maintenance. Our maintenance crew is spot on. It's just we have a spectacular maintenance crew, a real core group. And in our pro shop, this year we seem to have gotten a younger crowd. We're more dependent on a younger crowd that will show up and come to work, which is really nice. And we have a few of the managers in the pro shop that have really been excellent at keeping things moving forward. So we've been really lucky in those two. It's been a real struggle with the food and beverage. I'm telling you, that's a butt kicker, and that's just it's a different animal all the way around. And for us, it's always been tough. We knew it was going to be tough, but keeping people, we put in what we've always wanted from 25 years ago. I used to work at Anderson Windows, and they had a really good profit sharing there. And so we instituted a profit sharing when it just happened to be the best time in the world for the industry. And it's really worked out good. I mean, when you could make your key people, at Saddleback, it's our 8 to 12 people really feel like you got an ownership deal here. So if you want to buy that piece of equipment, sure, but it's gonna it might affect us at the end of the year. So let's weigh it out. Is it worth it or not? So it's really worked out well, really well.
And I know, Whitey, I'll stay with you on this one. I have been in the business long enough to see people who've had 10, 15, 20, sometimes 30, 40, 50-year careers, at one golf course. When you go to a course and you'll see, oh yeah, I've been working here for 45 years, 50 years. It's amazing, and it touches your heart. Do you think that you're aiming still to cultivate that type of employee who will stay as a career at one place, or you are more gauging your thing on being ready for the turnover that seems to be the case in most other industries right now?
I don't know. I mean, we're getting our guys. Our guys are staying for a lot of them are 8 to 10 years with us, and if they leave, some of them come back, and it's kind of fun. So we've had a few of those. So I would love to see 15, 20-year guys and gals out there. I mean, it's just that'd be perfect for me.
It would be. And Cathy, I don't know if you're facing the same thing, but I know that when I read all my studies, my nighttime reading and talking about looking at labor issues and that sort of thing, and you see that millennials will have 12 jobs, during the course of their careers. I mean, it doesn't seem like there's a generation that's looking forward to the gold watch or anything. But golf as always, is different. Are you still able to cultivate that sort of long-term employee?
Well, and we do have. I'm really thinking now if I have anyone who works here who's over 30 years old, and I don't think I do. So it's very young here, and I've only owned it for 5 years. So it's kind of a no one works here that worked here the day I bought it. So it's a very young crowd, and I really have taken a slightly different approach with it because these are young potential CEOs and managers down the road. And I've told them all, I hope you go on. I hope you do great things. I hope you learn everything you could possibly learn about running a business, not just a golf course, but running a business and having a staff to work with and how to train and delegate and do all those things and go on and do great things. Because I really think that the staff I have now, that's more their path than staying here forever.
Yeah. Again, that's not a horrible thing. If we accept that, that we're a place that people can come and get better career-wise, and in many cases, people want to feel like they're being improved as a person. And I think maybe a golf course is a great place to apply those sorts of life lessons as well. Talking about the economy in 2022, of course, supply chain issues affected everyone on the planet. Cathy, I'm sure you had your supply chain. What were some of your supply chain nightmares, and do you plan? Have they alleviated, or do you think that's going to continue into 2023? Sort of a macro question.
Well, my nightmares were how long it took me to get my new fleet of golf carts, which I have now, thank goodness, and the battle with range balls. So I opened this new Top Tracer driving range, and I'm battling to try to keep it supplied with range balls. Otherwise, I'm just picking it all day long and fighting that fight. So I did get my fleet of golf carts. So I don't know if they're still fighting that generally. I haven't had to ask for a while, thank goodness. And I feel like we finally have, certainly the kind of range balls I use, where there seems to be plenty of supply now. So, but at times, that was very worrisome to be both those things. I had a very aging fleet of carts that I was just putting more money into that I should have to keep it running. And I was leasing some carts until I got mine in, and it was costing me more to lease 12 carts to have them on property than it cost me once I got my new 30 carts here. So, wow. So it was not good on many levels, but I think that there's still things that are out there. I had put a new gate in, and then something that's like they said it's going to take a few weeks, took a few months. Yeah, so it still exists for sure.
Yeah, and I'm just writing a note to myself to get into the golf cart leasing business.
Right. Yes.
It sounds like the way to go. Whitey, any horror stories for you on the?
Well, last year, if you remember, Cathy, at the conference, everybody was talking about the range balls. Well, we came home right away about a month or two after, which was March, April, and ordered range balls for this year for 2022, and from 2021, and we still haven't got them. I mean, wow. they're over 14, 15 months, and I got half of them at the end of my season, so we're just going to keep them carted up. But our 4th of July stuff came in the middle of August, so that was great. And then our clothing, I mean, all of our apparel and outerwear, we, in the spring, we want jackets in there and stuff like that, long sleeve, and they came in July and August, and well, that was a waste of time. But we are doing a major upgrade in our irrigation system, and that was one thing I knew that was if it was going to be an issue with our pumps being pulled. Out here in Colorado, your greens go without, and they need it. If they need water and they go 2 or 3 days, you're toast. You're done. You're game over. So it's really hair raising when they're messing with the irrigation system. So we really took great pains to make sure that all the parts were in. I want to make sure all the parts were in before you pull them. So that was a big deal. So that was a.
And I think it's like you're reading off my notes. So I want to talk to you about the water issues. Where you are out west, you both sort of out west, and water is becoming increasingly a critical, not only a golf issue. This is a public policy issue. When you're in certain communities. You talked about your infrastructure, but how are you are you managing that? Are you able to get all the water that you need without?
Yeah, we're in a unique situation. We have our golf course is diverse off of it's the second oldest water right in the state of Colorado. It's a November 1st of 1859 water right. And here in Colorado, you get water by first in use and first in right. So whoever used it first is the first one that is your priority. So we're number one priority on this side of the divide. But I sit on a number of ditch boards, and it just came down the line that the Colorado Big Thompson project, which it sells water by the acre foot to cities, is given an allocation. They typically give out a 70% allocation of water every year and ballpark. And it usually starts off at 60 or 65%, but this year they're starting out at 40. So that's going to be a huge deal here in the Front Range. It's going to be a water squeeze because we're the headwaters of Lake Mead and Powell, and we're the headwaters of the Colorado. Even though we're on the wrong side of the divide, we bring over on the north side of Denver all the way up to Wyoming. We bring that water over across that divide. Wow! So we depend on it big time, the Colorado River. So,
and yeah, I'm going to go the same question to you because you look. I don't want to get into a big argument about climate change being real or not real. Not that type of discussion. But hot is hot, and it was hot where you were. How's that water issue affecting you? Are you having to make serious changes to allow and account for it?
Well, in Texas, it was a very hot summer. We had 50 days that were over 100 degrees.
Wow.
And if I went down to 95, it would have been double that. So we just had month after month of no rain and extremely hot temperatures. And so it's been a challenge for us, for anyone in Texas, really, to try to keep things irrigated. We work off of a pond system. And so we're not paying for our water, but we need the water. And so when it starts to go down and we don't have it coming from the sky, it can be a challenge. You start rationing it a little bit and trying to figure out, you just go to tees and greens and try to keep the greens alive. And so we've been able to sustain it, but there were some nerve-wracking days and weeks where we weren't sure what was happening. And right about the time we were in dire straits, we'd get a little rain. But it's been a tough year for us because it really did get extremely hot and still hasn't really rained anywhere near where we need it to.
And again, prospects look they're going to be about the same out under the horizon, for that weather. So that's something that's going to have to be accounted for year after year after year, and how you water, how you select the grasses that you use. All sorts of things go into that. We got a couple minutes.
Just to follow up with that, I think, just for our other owners out there, some of the things we're looking at now are digging some wells, like digging some multiple wells on the property where we're not relying on stuff coming from the sky, and going a different direction with it.
Again, good wisdom. So that's a great segue. I was going to say in our last couple of minutes, I wanted to see if either, or I'm sure you do, I'd like to get some pearls of wisdom from both of you as you look forward to 2023 and learning from the challenges you've had in 2022 and beyond your entire career. What are you looking to do? What pearls of wisdom would you share with your fellow golf course owners and operators for 2023? Whitey, I'll go to you first.
Oh, I don't know. I think one of the biggest, and I think everybody's sick of me saying it, but I'll say it again, is that one of the biggest things that we've done in the last few years is dynamic pricing. Now we're looking at next year. I think everybody knows that there's a recession coming. It's like 100% certainty. I saw on the news the other day, but the downward pressure on the pricing. Well, what do you just randomly select? You go from $50 for the cart and green fee on a Saturday morning. You're going to randomly go down to 45 or 47 or 42, or do you leave it at 50? Well, we're thinking that, with dynamic pricing, it'll take care of itself. We might have to, we're going to probably mess with the lower limits in the dynamic pricing, but it should take care of that issue altogether for next year. So that should be interesting to see how it works, because that's the first year we're really going to encounter that. So I'll report back.
And we'll be here for you to report back. Cathy, pearls of wisdom for 2023. What do you got for us?
Well, I think that for my facility, and it might work for some others as well, I'm focusing more on making this a little bit of an entertainment center And we've already started doing things like we have live music and a lot of the things that make it more of a community entertainment place, not just a golf course. We utilize our top tracer to do that. We have cornhole out here, cornhole tournaments, just a variety of things like that. We're even looking at maybe putting in a pickleball court. But I think for us, the thing that's going to keep us sustainable moving through any kind of a downturn is for this to be more than a golf course for the Paris community, Paris, Texas community.
And at Top Tracer, I know you mentioned that a couple of times, and the fact that you have to pick balls constantly means that balls are being hit constantly.
That's right.
that is the good news. Well, look, I can't think of two more skilled owners, operators, and better communicators to have with us today than you two. Thanks to you both for joining. And Whitey, Cathy, when you get some other things to talk about, we'll make sure that we have you in. You always have a soapbox to stand on and a megaphone to speak into right here.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks a lot.
You got it. That's Cathy Harbin of Pine Ridge Golf Course and Whitey O'Malley of Saddleback Golf Club. And like the challenges again are the same as always. It's always challenging being an owner and operator. That's not going to change from year to year. But the things that we face, whether it's water, whether it's climate, whether it's the economy, all these things require macro and micro adjustments. And the one thing that we can always count on, though, from year to year is each other, to listen and to learn from the resources that we have through the National Golf Course Owners Association, the membership, the leadership, the sponsors, the vendors, all of it. You have such great resource here to get you through the good times, the bad times, and maximize the good times. So thanks to both of our guests for their input. We're going to take a quick break. When we come right back, it'll be House Chat with our good friends from Tagmarshal. I'm looking forward to it. You ought to as well. So as I always say, we'll take a break, go get yourself a cold beverage and a crunchy snack, and we'll be right back waiting for you when you get here. Michael Williams, Golf Business Live. See you in a minute. Welcome back to Golf Business Live. Your host, Michael Williams, still with you. And this is maybe my favorite segment, House Chat, where we get to talk with and about interesting people in the industry about the topics that interest you most in making your business the most efficient and the most enjoyable experience for your customers. Today, I want to center around something that's been sort of central to me since I started in the business way back when and was operating golf courses, and that is pace of play. As some of you know, I started off at with the golf course management company here in Washington, D.C. that ran the 3 National Park Service courses. And at one of our locations, we were so busy that in 9-hole rounds in one year, we did 203,000 9-hole rounds at one location in 1 year. That, my friend, is a lot of traffic. So pace of play was obviously very important to us. And it's always been very important to golfers to be able to enjoy the experience, and having that experience in a reasonable amount of time makes it really one of the things. It's one of the key factors in having customers come and bringing customers back. And there was some recent research that points and confirms pace of play as one of the most important factors in our game. And joining me today to talk about that is a guy who is on the forefront of how to make that thing work for us. He is one of the smartest guys I know, also one of the nicest guys I know. I'm happy to call him a friend. Please welcome from Tagmarshal, Bodo Sieber.
I am so well, and all the better for getting to chat to you. Thank you so much for the kind introduction, Michael.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, my friend. And look, I think we just saw each other recently at a conference in South Carolina. And I know that you really make the rounds here in the United States and are really a keen observer of the game in the context of your business. And I'm sure that you saw this research about 84% of golf course owners, based on our research, NGCOA research, they see pace of play as critical to the player experience. And what I'd like to talk about today is, that number one, and what that tells us and how we can really manage that thing, that pace of play. So let's start with the number. 84% of golf course owners seeing pace of play as critical to the player experience. Does that number surprise you? not surprise you? Is that about what you thought it would be?
Yeah, interesting. I think it's important to look at some context here. That's what are the other things that are high ranking, right? And I believe in this research, and well done to the USGA and the NGCOA for compiling this very in depth. The top ranking factor, according to operators, was course conditioning. And I believe the percentage who said this is critical is 86%. So the 84% is very close to that. And I'm not surprised in the slightest, because we've all had very busy seasons, right? Thankfully. And the other reason I'm not surprised is because a previous USGA research result was that 74% of players said this is critical to our experience.
Yeah.
And again, here, course conditioning came out tops. So I think it's great to see that the owners, course owners, and managers are aligning with what their customers, the golfers, are saying is key to them, and that they're paying attention to those items.
Yeah, I think you really nailed it. That the research shows that the owners think it's important and the players think it's important. So if everybody thinks it's important, then what do we do about it? And that's where Tagmarshal comes in. So for people who are not familiar with Tagmarshal, the technology and the product, it gives just a little description of what it is and what it does.
Yeah, sure. So we have a technology-based system that some people have described as the Waze or Google Maps of golf course traffic management. So we give you a bird's eye view, full line of sight of anything that happens out on your golf course. So this is the live management component. And then we have a very powerful back-end and analytics tool that helps make better decisions around course setup, interval design, goal time design, and really brings control into the space. And ultimately, this is GPS based. We're tracking golf carts, we're tracking walking golfers, so we can do both. And ultimately, the name of the game is, as you mentioned, we're trying to provide the best possible player experience, but we're also trying to meet the business goals of how can we work smarter with fewer resources, and how can we increase our revenue. And what we found is that by managing this very critical business component of a golf course, that's anything that moves out on the course, as well as we possibly can, we can actually tackle all three of these business critical items. So it's been a fantastic journey for us. We're now working with almost 500 golf courses, 30 of the top 100. Some amazing names are in the industry, both daily fee, resort, and private. And there's lots that we're still looking to do, and we're obviously never finished. You know, much like a golf course is never perfect, and an operation is never perfect. Neither are we, and we're very excited to add value to this amazing industry.
Well, it's kind of interesting that you have a company that solved an existing problem. There's companies that start with a product that doesn't necessarily answer a problem and sort of waiting for a problem to come to it, but you actually answer an issue and a problem. So I'm going to go to a situation where you have a golf course that doesn't have Tagmarshal yet. What are some of the things that people are doing or can do to improve pace of play, but before they've invested in Tagmarshal?
Sure. No, this is a great question, because obviously we understand that not everyone is ready to turn to technology, even though the adoption rate is picking up massively. So it's not easy to manage 150, 200 golfers out on a golf course, right? There's no doubt about it. There's lots of variables. How quickly do they move? What awareness do they have of themselves versus others? Have they played the course before? What's their handicap? Are they frequent players? Are they newbies? Are they senior players? Are they junior players? There's lots of variables. I fully understand and appreciate that. So it's not an easy space to manage. And what traditionally the way to do it is you would try and have a marshal out or a ranger out to try and keep an eye and help people speed things up. Now, this comes with some challenges, because the marshal or ranger as a resource is normally at the wrong place at the wrong time, or they can never see the entire field, right? And then they have to make educated guesses as to, here's a gap in the field that's closing up. Is this now a group that's slowing down, or is the other group speeding up? And then normally, and even the term marshal or ranger indicates that there is authority invested in this position, and then normally the ranger would come up to a playing group and says, hey guys, you're slow, speed up, right? And the problem is this is often confrontational, and the players would 100% disagree with you every single time. They will always tell you they're not slow, it's a group in front of you. So this is a difficult space to manage, and also it's quite a resource intensive space to try and manage, because you have to roam this big area that is your golf course the whole day looking for problems, right? So this is a traditional way of doing it. Unfortunately, the mere institution that is a marshal is not well liked by golfers, because generally the marshal's interaction is confrontational, and you can never explain to a golfer that they're slow. They just cannot compute. They don't want to hear that. It's you have a low IQ conversation, right? And they will defend themselves and fight back. And unfortunately, it's not a happy space. I know a friend of mine, whenever he goes to a golf course, he finds a marshal, tips him $20 and says, please be nice to me. So here's a revenue opportunity, right? No, I'm joking. So I think one of the USGA research items that went into the deep dive of the golfer experience and what are the items that matter most, they found a very surprising fact in that the most critical experience that is negatively impacting golfers is a pace of play intervention that is confrontational, right? That is the most negative thing that can happen to a golfer during their round. The single item that can destroy somebody's golf round is to have that interaction. Now, the other thing that ranks just as badly is other people's speed. So if other people get in my way and I cannot play and I have to wait, and guess where Tagmarshal was born? With 3 groups backed up on the 13th hole, again on a Saturday. This is when we started investigating, could we find a technology to help make this better? So other people's speed is the second biggest frustrator to golfers. And on the contrary, the highest ranking experience factor outside of conditioning is positive ranger etiquette. So if a ranger has positive etiquette around the interaction with the player, it ranks really high. And this is so surprising, but I think it's just because it's so unusual and so unexpected. So going back to your question, Michael, what can an operator do if they don't have technology and they want to do things a little bit better when it comes to pace of play? My recommendation would be to reposition that marshal role and not call it a marshal or ranger, but call that role a player assistant or a course ambassador, because immediately we're turning an authoritarian confrontational role into a service-driven supportive role, right? So this is rule number 1. Rename the marshal into a course ambassador or a player assistant, because we're here to assist the players, right? Then rule number 2, what you can do, and we teach that to all of our partners that we work with, never, ever, ever bring pace and being slow into the conversation with the playing group. Because they will, again, it's confrontational, they will fight back and they will say that they're not slow. Nobody wants to be considered a slow golfer. So the easiest way is to just reposition that conversation and say, hey guys, you are out of position. You are 400 yards out of position, 5 minutes out of position. How can I help you get back in position? So now we've done 2 things. We've sent an assistant or a course ambassador to assist the players, and we have positioned the problem, they're out of position, without triggering them by saying you're slow. So those are very, very simple takeaways. And then obviously there's lots of other opportunities, like can we ensure that our starter is accurate? Because if our interval is 9 minutes, we have to adhere to that. Because it's a physics problem. If I send out one group 2 minutes late, the next group 1 minute early, I've reduced the 9 minutes to 6 minutes, and that's causing problems at the next par 3, right? So these are the rules that we're trying to control. But the 2 very simple takeaways is adjust what you name this resource, and do never ever say to a player you're slow. Frame it differently and be there to help them. That makes all the difference.
Yeah, again, from my experience, other things like putting accurate signage out, letting people know without the human interaction. You're where you should be, what the expectation is on the golf course, consistently, frequently, can help too. And as I'm listening to you describe the condition, almost use the metaphor of the Google Waze or something like that, monitoring traffic. It seems to me it's almost like a medical. If you look at a medical situation, if you look at the course as a body, as a living thing, and if it's almost like an MRI, Tagmarshal is, because you have this overall thing and you can see a situation, a clog, almost like an artery. You can see a clog before it starts to cause a problem. And I think that's the beauty of Tagmarshal, because you're describing a situation where the problem has already happened, and then you have to take some very invasive techniques to do that. But with this MRI that is Tagmarshal, you can sort of diagnose a situation before it becomes a problem and address it in a much less aggressive way. This is just the way I think. So
this is an analogy that I haven't come across, but I like your thinking, and it's quite true. And again, there's two portions to it. One is the live management, right? So that we can really have a preemptive view. There's a problem about to form. This group has got a negative trend. They're slowing down. They're now 6 minutes off where they're supposed to be, and they're impacting groups behind them. So I can see that immediately see the problem. But also going back to your medical analogy, if there is an artery that is clogging up repeatedly, well, how can we lay a stent? Like, how can we adjust our
exactly?
How can we adjust our golf course? Because now we have data that proves here choke points, certain holes don't work as well as we want them to. How can we make adjustments to it? And very often those are low cost opportunities. We just need to do them and then run traffic through it and incrementally improve. And step by step, we can shave off time and we can make the course run more smoothly. But there's also the reverse of the story, is that sometimes you have to slow down a hole and make it a little bit tougher to buy time for the next hole, right? So, but you can only do this if you have data and if data gets collected on a consistent basis, because very often, we're using anecdotal evidence, we're watching a little bit, we're getting a stopwatch out, but this is a fraction of the data that's actually available. So I think this is where technology is really helpful, because every single second of every single round of golf being tracked, obviously you can collect data and display it in a way that it's not meaningful, including we're breaking down hole times by time spent on tee box, time spent in fairways, time spent on the green. So we will know exactly which holes have got critical tee box wait times, which is a experience killer for golfers, right? So then it's easy to make those adjustments. So those are some of the things to consider. Yeah. Certainly, I like your analogy. It's a nice way to look at it.
I'll invoice you, Bodo. I have your information, not a problem. What I wanted to talk about also was, I want to let you brag a little bit. So you've been at this for a minute, and as you say, adoption is way up of Tagmarshal, and I've experienced on some of my favorite courses, some of the best known courses in the country, in the world, really. And there's also, just smaller courses that nobody knows about that have been helped by Tagmarshal too. So I want you to do a couple things. One is brag a little bit and name some of those courses those trophy courses that that are implementing Tagmarshal, and also talk a little bit about which courses do you think benefit most, or is there a course that benefits most between a muni, a private, a resort golf course? Is there any one that is more likely to be ready to adopt and adapt to Tagmarshal?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, and maybe starting with the bragging list. So we're very fortunate to be working with some of the very best. There's Erin Hills, the US Open hosts, Whistling Straits, Pebble Beach, to Pinehurst, to name a few, and they're all standout operations, right? And they've got also really good managers driving those operations. And on the private club side, we work with Oakmont, Valhalla, Hazeltine, to name a few. And again, on the private golf side, they are absolute standout facilities. Now, who's more likely to adopt? The majority of our customers are really middle of the road, right? They're the $40, $50 green fee courses. We have a number of $25, $30 municipal courses. And of course, the middle of the road a private club as well. So why would they turn to technology? I think is the question that we need to ask. They're all solving the same problem, right? They want to enhance the player experience and have control over this in a way that is resource efficient, right? So a lot of private clubs are saying, well, we used to have marshals or rangers and it's not an efficient resource allocation because we spend a lot of time, and are we really solving the problem? Well, we've got some visibility, but we're not actually solving anything, because we're still getting the phone calls and it's an interaction that's not really assisting the player experience. So those clubs would then say, well, if we use technology, we can get more done with fewer resources. We can have a control room set up in our clubhouse, live screen of anything that happens on our course, and we can go out there when we have to. Or we can use the more automated functions of the system that actually talk to the players directly, so the players can self-manage and they can acknowledge, and only if we need to do we go out. So we've got, I just recently had a conversation with a country club at Castle Pines in Colorado, and it's a wonderful facility, and they have dialed into this automated optimization, if you will. So they're using the system with a GPS screen that goes and updates the players on, are they on pace or are they falling out of position in a dynamically calculated way that's really accurate, so the players don't push back and say, well, the system's lying to me. And then they're spending so much less time managing things. And also when it comes to those uncomfortable situations where you need to have a conversation with a player who are perpetually slow, it is difficult to have this conversation if you don't have data, right? Like in a private club space, maybe highly respected members that are holding up your field, you have no chance of managing this peacefully if you don't have data. So now if you have data, it's a very simple conversation and you can help those players be better. We even have golf managers saying, well, do you know how many golf lessons I have sold on the basis of being able to dig into the data and telling a player, you're always falling out of position on hole number 6. How can I help you play this better, Wow. And then, so this is in the private club space, it's certainly an experience insurance, if you will. And even a club that does only 15,000 rounds would say every single round here needs to be excellent. And this is why we're investing in this. And it makes our job and our life so much easier. And ultimately, the name of the game for them is, and this is where Oakmont, Devin Gee has, he's their manager. He said, this has been so helpful to us because we've been able to create additional tee times and capacity that we'd never had. And everyone wants to play at Oakmont. We can now accommodate more members and guests, especially on our critical days. So it's extremely valuable to them. And you know what a guest round is worth at a place like Oakmont. But if you have another private club, they may be able to say, well, we can actually accommodate 10 more members now or 20 more members because we have created additional tee times capacity by managing this really well. And this obviously what segues us into the private space, into the daily fee space where revenue is the name of the game, right? And player retention is the name of the game. So if we can guarantee a better experience by managing the flow of play really well on the golf course, by having constructive, positive interactions that are not confrontational, can we increase the return and retention rate of our players out there, especially players that we have attracted newly to the course? I was at an event recently. Do you remember I bumped into you at NGCOA, one of our partners, and one of the key data points that stood out to me was that 55% of first-time daily fee golf course players do not return. They only play this daily fee course once and they do not come back. And this, to me, is the single biggest revenue opportunity. How can we take the majority of these players who come back twice, 3 times, 5 times? And what are we doing wrong so they don't come back? Because we've attracted them to play. So clearly, to me, there's a correlation between what has the experience been like out on the course. If the experience out on the course has been excellent, of course they will come back, right? And this is where we know municipal or daily fee golf course that manages the flow of play well, they will always have more business than their competitors.
Right.
Because the word goes out that this course you can play, and we've got really busy managers saying they've got guests saying there isn't even a space out on the car park. Right. You are so busy. And then the players would say, how do you get me through here in 4 hours and 5 minutes every single time like clockwork? How do you do it? What's the magic? And they say, well, we've got the system that helps us get this done, right? So the opportunity in the daily fee space is huge, because every single player that we're attracting, we want them to come back. And also we need to manage a much broader variety of players, right? Yeah. Like we said initially, newbies, like we want those new players at our course. How can we make things attractive to them? And this is where we're finding, a lot of the managers really dialing into the data. They're understanding I can run the early part of my day half an hour, 40 minutes quicker than our general goal time. I can actually sell these rounds at a premium because a lot of people want to play in 3 hours 30. So I would give them that experience. Right. In the afternoon, I can create a slot that is new player friendly, right? And we will play this in 4 hours 30. We will give them a bit more time, and we maybe increase our intervals a little bit so that we can create a space that they will enjoy. So it's much more of a custom experience opportunity. And ultimately, if we do those things really well, we can create more capacity, we can drive more revenue, and we can increase repeat play. And that's good for any business, right?
Well, as you always say, the bottom line is the bottom line. And Tagmarshal helps the experience and helps the bottom line. Bodo, as usual, you are a wellspring of knowledge and information for your customers and for the industry as a whole. Man, really thank you for spending the time today. It's always fascinating for me. And I can't wait to see you either back here on the show or out there in person. And we really haven't had a chance to tee it up together. So at some point, we have to make that happen as well, no?
I look forward to that. And then hopefully I'm not the guy who gets the marshal to come over and shout at us.
No such thing as a marshal. It's a player assistant or course ambassador.
There we go. Thank you.
So you'll be fine. Thanks again, Bodo. We'll talk to you soon, man.
Thanks. And thanks for doing a great show. A pleasure to chat to you.
Congratulations, man. Again, Tagmarshal, it's just an exceptional company. I've known about Tagmarshal almost since the minute it got started. We've met and I've watched the arc of it. I've been on courses that use it and play it, and he's right. It does improve the experience. And when you can find something where you have that overlap of it, improving the customer experience and also improving the revenue, improving the bottom line, improving the efficiency of a golf course, well, that's sort of that sweet spot. That's that magic zone that you want to hit. It's good for the customer. It's good for the business. And you even want to double down and get, as Bodo has alluded to, as much information as you can and see how many different ways you can use that information. How should you apportion your resources for food and beverage? How should you apportion all your different resources that you're using there? There's so much information that can be gleaned from that. And that's what it's all about, is getting that information and using it. That is just about all the time we have for this week. I want to thank our guests, and I want to thank you for watching. We'll be back with another show really, really soon. Until then, I want you to go out, hit some balls, and when you do, hit them straight. For Golf Business Live, I'm Michael Williams.